So I was flipping through Mike Valla's classic dry fly box from 2010 looking for an all-purpose dry fly. And one caught my eye, partly because it has a Peacock herl body and I love tying with Peacock herl, but also because it has a really cool name. The pattern is called the Batwing Coachman. Now I couldn't tell for sure who created the fly, but we know it showed up in one of Ray Smith's brochures from the 1970s. And Smith was really a legendary but underappreciated Catskill fly tyer, one you probably never heard of unless you read a lot of Mike Valla's books, which he does have a great chapter on him in his Tying Catskill Style Dry Flies. So if you have that book, definitely stop and read that chapter. So this Batwing Coachman doesn't look like a typical Catskill style dry fly in that it has a pretty chunky Peacock herl body, but I think it's a pretty cool looking pattern and I know it's going to be a lot of fun to fish. There it is in the vise, a Batwing Coachman from Mike Valla's classic dry fly box. Now I'm tying this on a size 12 standard length barbless dry fly hook. And I hate to admit it, but I have run out of black 70 denier thread. So instead of stepping it up to a 140, I'm going to step it down. This is a 12/0. So pretty thin stuff. One you saw in the vise a minute ago was tied with it, so we can make it work. So just lay a base in, and when I have an upright wing and a tail on a dry fly like this, I will do the tail first. And the tail on this, just brown hackle barbs. So long, stiff if you can get them. And like a lot of Catskill flies, they are pretty long. So let's try this right here. See what that's going to do. It's going to flare up a little bit. Don't really want, so I'm going to put a couple of looser wraps right there just to try and keep it from flaring too much. Don't really want it pushed down either, so I think that's going to be fine. Now we do need to snip this just because it's so long. We don't have to worry about having a big lump because we've got a big thick body here. Now I'm going to leave my thread almost to the back and I'm going to grab a bunch of Peacock herl. This is probably 5 or 6 strands because I'm getting down to the last of my pack and some of these are getting pretty straggly and they might not all make it. So I'm going to catch it in about a couple inches from the tips, the really brittle stuff. And we'll see if all these make it to the end. They might, but they might not. Okay, so we got that right there, and I'll just break these off right here. Probably snip them. Might have been quicker to snip them, but they broke just fine. Okay, so let's take our thread up here, and we're not gonna wrap these yet. We're gonna do our wings next. So maybe a third of the way back should be fine. And the fly you saw in the beginning, I used tips from Rooster Dry Fly Cape. This one, these are tips from Strung Saddle Hackle. And I think the Rooster, the dry fly, it was just, they were too thin. They weren't wide enough. So I'm gonna go with a hen here on this one. And these should give us a little bit wider tips. It might not be that noticeable, but I think it will be. So let's get these caught in, flip them up. Is that gonna be high enough? Yeah, I think it is. So let's go ahead and snip this excess here in the back. And I am gonna prop, you know what? Yeah, I'm gonna prop these up before I wrap that Peacock herl. So let's just grab all these, and there's gonna be a few fibers that don't stand up, and that's okay. We can probably trim them. So just put several of it right here, several wraps, and then see how I've got some of those kind of sticking out. We can just trim these, and if you want to tie it a little bit spent, go ahead and put some X wraps, figure 8 wraps through them. This step isn't really vital, I don't think, but if you want them, you know, at least semi-spent, you can put a couple of wraps through them right here. Okay, so we've got them spent right there, but I've got to also got a lot of these little barbs sticking forward, which I don't really want because that will kind of make the brown hackle, the proper hackle, just look a little bit shaggy when we're done. So spend a little bit of time right here cleaning this up. And that's going to be clean enough. Now let's wrap this peacock herl. And I'm going to spin these together a little bit. Don't get my tail. So don't spin them too tight because then some of them will definitely break, but just a couple of twists should be fine. And watch the point of your hook. That will break them too. So just wrap a big chubby body up here to the back of this wing. Now catch it off up here. And I'm definitely going to have to snip these because the stems of these peacock herl strands are getting a little bit thick by now. So just pull these back. Don't want to snip any of that white. Okay, that's going to be fine right there. Now catch in our proper hackle, which is brown dry fly hackle. And this is also from a rooster cape. I'm going to catch it in behind the wings, and I hope to get maybe 2 wraps behind the wings and 3 or 4 up in front. But we'll see. It doesn't always go as planned. So let's just wrap them and see. Okay, that's 2. Can I get 3 behind without pushing them too far forward? I think so, because we can always do the wrap right in front of these wings to kind of prop them back up. So there we go. That's 3 behind, 2 in front. I'm going to go with another one up front and make it a nice big bushy hackled fly. Okay, I think that's enough hackle. This thing should float pretty well. Now what I do with the dry flies like this, I just pull everything back and make my head. I don't want to sweep them back, but I just want them far back enough that hopefully I don't trap too many of them when I make my whip finish here, which is always a little bit of a challenge for me anyway. Just kind of have to zigzag this through here and try not to trap any extra ones, and it looks like I already have. But we'll be able to snip these or singe them if you want it to look really pretty. See that? Got a couple fibers going forward. I'm just going to try to snip them. And as long as the eye of my fly is good, in this case we've got a fishable fly. So there you go, Batwing Coachman from Mike Valla's classic dry fly box. Pretty fun tie, and looks like it's going to be an effective one. So I appreciate you watching. Y'all take care, and we'll see you next time.